Many countries have prohibitions on extraditing their own citizens built into their constitutions. Others refuse to extradite their citizens as a matter of policy. Today, we're talking about countries that refuse to extradite their own citizens. This can make citizenship in these countries extremely valuable. Welcome back to the Liberty Mundo channel, where we help high net worth individuals protect their assets, secure multiple citizenships, and legally minimize taxes. Visit libertymundo.com and get in touch for personalized strategies. All countries can refuse to extradite whoever they please. It often depends on which country requests the extradition. The UK will easily extradite its citizens to the United States, but it won't extradite its citizens to Russia or to India, despite extradition treaties being in place with both those countries. Here are 11 countries that refuse to extradite their citizens. First, we have Brazil. Brazil's constitution forbids the extradition of Brazilian citizens. This includes naturalized Brazilians if the offense occurred after naturalization. Next, we have Portugal. The Portuguese constitution states under Article 33, the deportation of Portuguese citizens from Portuguese territory is not permitted. This applies to naturalized Portuguese citizens as well as native-born Portuguese. In one famous case covered in the extradition report, the Portuguese authorities refused to extradite a convicted murderer to the U.S. as he'd acquired Portuguese citizenship. Venezuela is next on our list. Venezuela will refuse to extradite its own citizens. This is protected by Venezuela's constitution. Section 69 contains a blanket prohibition on the extradition of Venezuelan nationals. Now let's look at Russia. In 2018, 2 Russian nationals were poisoned in Salisbury, England. This was considered attempted murder by the British authorities. The suspects were Russian citizens, but by the time they were identified, they'd returned to Russia. The UK issued Interpol red notices for the suspects. However, as Russia doesn't extradite its own citizens, they will never face prosecution in the UK, provided they remain in Russia. Next, we have Germany. Germany does not extradite its own nationals. However, there may be some exceptions under the EU arrest warrant. Even then, other EU countries are required to return a German national to Germany following conviction. German law states that a German national can only be extradited if the wanted person and a German judge consent to it. Now to China. There is very little extradition traffic between China and the rest of the world. China will refuse to extradite its citizens overseas. Moreover, it would be very uncommon for another country to extradite a person wanted by China. France will also protect its citizens from foreign authorities. Roman Polanski, a famous film director, is wanted in the US for child sex crimes. He's wanted for an offense committed in the 1970s. As Polanski is a French citizen, he's able to live and work openly in France without the fear of extradition. France will always refuse to extradite its own citizens. Now let's look at Israel. Israel will not extradite its own nationals. The only exception is for offenses committed prior to becoming an Israeli citizen. Austria is next on our list. The Austrian constitution prohibits extradition of Austrian nationals. Therefore, Austria will refuse to extradite any Austrian national accused of a crime overseas. Now to the African island of Cape Verde. The country has a constitutional prohibition against the extradition of its own nationals. Greece too does not extradite its own citizens. This applies to anyone who's a Greek citizen when the extradition request is made. It's possible to obtain Greek citizenship following 7 years of residency. Finally, we look at Poland. The extradition of Polish citizens is prohibited under the Polish constitution. Roman Polanski, who's wanted by the US, was making a film in Poland in 2015. The US made an extradition request for Polanski while he was in Poland. However, as Polanski also had Polish citizenship, in addition to his French nationality, the Polish authorities refused the US extradition request for Polanski. A second citizenship can provide valuable insurance against extradition. If you're wanted by another country, you're not necessarily safe just because you happen to be in a non-extradition country. If you haven't planned things carefully, you'll be at risk of deportation. It's the most common way that fugitives are returned to their own countries. Having a citizenship from a country that doesn't extradite is the best insurance policy you can have against extradition. If you want to reduce your taxes to single digits, make your assets impossible for anyone to touch, and gain more freedom with second citizenships, get in touch with Liberty Mundo and book a consultation call. We will help you develop a complete blueprint to organize your life to safeguard your wealth and your freedom. Follow the link in the description for more details. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.